Welcome in, everyone, to another live show of the HawksZone Rundown. I'm Bryce. I got Michael Thompson joining me tonight from Field Goals, one of my partners over there. Ryan's unfortunately not going to be on the show tonight, but it's the final mock draft. Tonight is all mock draft central. We're going to do 3 different mocks. We're going to do a mock where you guys, the viewers, are going to make the selections. Me and Mike are going to just be your click guys and click who you want. Second draft is going to be all trades, all mayhem. Me and Mike are going to try and move all around the board and do different things. And then the third draft will be what me and Mike believe Seattle will do on Thursday. So we're getting you all primed up for all of that. But Mike, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. It's draft week. We're here. I can't believe it. Thursday night at Lambeau Field. It's going to be, I'm not a Packers guy, but it's still a really cool place to have the draft. I think it's going to be awesome for those fans, and big draft for the Seahawks. First draft where it really feels like Mike Macdonald has his hands on the roster a lot, and a good opportunity for John, and a kind of a make or break draft. And I'm very hopeful and very excited. I think this is a draft that has a lot of people have come around on as we get closer, which happens a lot around these draft times. But I know this draft you and I have talked about for a while, and we're pretty high on, and I'm really excited to finally see some of these guys in Seahawks uniforms.
Yeah, man, I can't wait. Honestly, I'm licking my chops for that live draft party we're going to be a part of on Thursday with Dan Viens at Seahawks Forever. It's going to be a lot of fun to dive into round 1 and see how this draft really falls. But before we get to that, and before we get to tonight's show, I want to remind everyone, subscribe, click that notification button, go over to Field Goals. That's where you'll find a bunch of our stuff over there. Mike's writing up a great mock draft article right now. He's going to finalize before Thursday, and that's going to go up. So make sure you guys are checking our stuff out over at Field Goals. But after this, we'll get into the draft.
So y'all can sit here and ask me all the questions y'all want to.
Don't you ever talk about me!
Yeah, let's go. It's go time, baby.
Here comes Gino, steps up, takes that shot to the end zone. It is Metcalf, 20.
I'm just about that action, boss.
You about to go get it. You just like to do it.
That's what it is.
Off me.
Nobody in the world can do that.
Are you kidding me? Trying to do that. Pass is caught back in. Jackson, Smith, and Jigba. The circus music rolls in. Throws it forward. Oh my goodness, he caught it up by the run of the railroad.
This is the HawksZone Rundown with your hosts, Ryan and Bryce.
All right, everyone. So we'll get into the mocks, but the first thing we'll talk about, there's a little bit of news today. John Schneider and Mike Macdonald did their pre-draft press conference. So, Mike, I don't know how much you got to see of it today because I know you're busy with a whole bunch of other things, but I got to see it. It was kind of interesting because it was one of the few times I've seen Mike Macdonald and John Schneider maybe tip their hand on some of the ways they're feeling about this draft class. But at the same time, there were things about it that were like, okay, it's the same, it's the norm, so on and so forth. The thing that I find really interesting is the amount of attention that's being paid to the quarterback position, even from some of the media members. Now that Drew Lock's obviously in here, Sam Howell, we've heard the reports that they're potentially going to be shopping him. And, you know, John said, hey, like, we're not really discussing a trade yet with Sam. We might bring all 4, including Jaron Hall, into camp. How do you feel that now with Drew Lock being here, that really shapes up going into this draft for Seattle to potentially still take a quarterback?
I think right now it definitely makes it a little bit hard to envision anything that's going to happen in the first 3, maybe even first 4 rounds. When you signed Sam Darnold to the kind of contract that you did, yeah, there's ways to get out of that contract, but it's also a contract that looks like you're really invested in him becoming a franchise quarterback for Seattle. And then you bring in a guy as a backup in Drew Lock that's been here that, unlike Sam Howell, has actually had some level of success when he has been put into the moment to have to make a play for the Seahawks. We all remember the Monday night game, and even the Monday night game against the Giants when he came in there and just made, a play or two when Gino was hurt in that victory over the Giants 2 years ago. And then you have Sam Howell, who absolutely laid an egg in that Sunday night game against Green Bay. But this is still a guy that John Schneider was so interested in that he traded a day 2 pick to go get. So I think this belief that, and we've seen reports that they're looking, and as everything you've heard since they made the trade, it doesn't sound like Sam Howell's been the guy. But that doesn't mean that you're just going to trade him for nothing. If you can get something, and John's going to wait until he gets the best possible price to move on. And until then, I expect we're going to run into this season with these quarterbacks. Now, does that mean that we will not see a quarterback taken in round 5, 6, or 7? I definitely think that's possible. I think that's a possibility because Sam Howell's contract, you can get out of it whenever you want without any type of cap hit whatsoever. Whereas Drew Lock, it's a 2-year deal. They're invested in Drew Lock being in that Tavares Jackson role. So that doesn't mean that you can't bring in a guy. So do I think Seattle is going to draft a guy in the first 3 rounds? No. Am I disappointed in that? A little bit, but I also have been doing some work already on what next year's draft class looks like at the quarterback position. And it makes a lot of sense to, hey, why force something when we already have Sam and Drew, guys that we're comfortable in? And hey, maybe Sam Howell under a new system flourishes under Kubiak. Or, hey, but at the same time, if a guy that we really like falls to us at round 5 or 6, we'll take him. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I've gotten as well from, where we started with when Gino was on the roster. Obviously, we were all very much like, hey, they need to start thinking about the future. And not that they don't still, but because of that reset to Sam Darnold and age, you're not as pressed to do it this year. You can let, the draft board fall. And if like you said, there's a guy in round 5 or 6 that you like, take a swing, see what happens, because Sam Howell's contract's so easy to get out of. And so is Drew Lock's in a lot of ways too. Really, 2 years, $5 million. Like, it's not like they're hamstrung either way. The only quarterback really that has substantial money is Sam Darnold. So you can get out of this, and if you find a guy that you like and he comes in and he does well, maybe that means Jaren Hall and Sam Howell aren't on this roster come training camp. They're both moved on from, and you kind of go with that forward. But the other thing that was interesting was just the conversations that, John and Mike had, with the reporters and what they were asking, like, do you trade back? O-line's such a, focus, like how focused are you guys on addressing that? And John kind of even said, he goes, the whole O-line conversation now is becoming a very lazy narrative. Like, we know it's an issue. We know we need to address it. And I get where John's coming from. The problem is, John, you may have addressed it by just taking guys and, putting resources towards that O-line, but you've never gotten the return on it. Charles Cross and Abe Lucas, the only two you've really seen any sort of return on. And Abe Lucas, it's basically been 2 half seasons, his rookie and towards the end of last season, where we started to see really Abe Lucas back to being who we thought he was going to be coming out. And Charles Cross has kind of been up and down. He's had really good moments and he's had okay moments. So, it's really interesting to see how they address that particular area of need in this draft, because we know everybody in Seattle really wants them to go after, a Gray Zabel or a Tyler Booker with that pick 18 if one of them's there. But do you think that's the best allocation of the resources if there's some of these defensive players that have fallen?
No, it's tough because there's clearly the people in the building, which is really John, that has his view of how to draft and build an offensive line. And he has some moderate success early on, and there's no way other around it. It's been an absolute failure for about the last 10 years. And you can make the case, I think a lot of people have, the reason why it worked in the past was you had a great center and a Charles Cross level left tackle in Russell Okung, which I don't think that's necessarily like a diss or that much of a praise. I think it's just a very, at his best, he's a top 10 left tackle. At his worst, he's a top 20 left tackle. And so that's kind of how I feel Cross as well. But you also had this weapon in Marshawn Lynch. You had this unique weapon in Russell Wilson that it changed so much about how a defense could attack that it kind of made our offensive line probably better than it actually was back then. But anyways, not a history lesson. We all know that. I think with John, I think he's getting frustrated because I think in his mind, hey, I went out and got the son of one of the great offensive coordinators of all time. Who grew up in a system that specializes in creating 1,000-yard rushers like you're picking an apple off of the tree. You also went and got some of those old offensive line coaches. What's his name? It's escaping me. The offensive line coach.
Benton. Yeah, John Benton.
Yeah. Like I can see John being like, you guys want me to go draft guys at 18 who shouldn't be drafted until 35. Well, I just went out and got you coaches that are going to get Christian Haynes to be in a better spot. And I think kind of what you're getting at is you can see it and you can hear it with a defensive coach and with the way John talks. It really feels like we're going best player available. And I kind of want to get my coach his chess piece on defense. And then in day two, when I have all these extra picks, then I'll get some guys to kind of, come in and help the offensive line. But and I love Zabel. For an example, I love Zabel. And if they took him at 18, would I be upset? No. Do I feel like he's the 18th best player in this draft? Absolutely not. And I'm a big fan of Zabel. Whereas there's other guys in this draft that it is a weird draft. Pick 15 through 50, you could switch around to however you want. And I don't think anybody would bat an eye. But I do think you can do better at 18, and you can do something that might take this defense into the top 5 in the league.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I've been going over the last month with this. And it's just, I love Gray Zabel as well. I like Kelvin Banks. I like Tyler Booker, even though some people are kind of worried about his scheme fit. But he's an alpha, and I feel like you'd find a way to make it work in the system. And then I'm also still fans of guys that are on the roster. Christian Haynes, Olu, Jalen Sundell. There's guys still on this roster that I like, and I want to see, does this new staff, because they have continuity, because they have a vision of how this is supposed to go, and as well, they know how this process works. Are they able to get these guys going in the right direction? And that was one thing John kind of alluded to today, which I found interesting, was he made the comment, and I can't remember it verbatim for what he said, but it was along the lines of having John Benton and Rick Dennison and Clint Kubiak and this new staff in here during this draft process has actually been a lot easier than it was last year, mainly because they know how this process works, for one. Two, they've been in other war rooms and seen how this process gets put together by other places and have brought some of their own, ways of doing things to Seattle. And I think that was something that was really missing last year when you had two coaches, especially on the offensive side, of Ryan Grubb and Scott Huff, that had never been in the NFL, that had never gone through a draft before. I think it potentially led to maybe some identification issues of talent or the process in its own right and how it goes. So it'll be really interesting to see how much that experience from this new offensive staff really bends the ear of John Schneider and this front office in who are we looking at, how are we trying to obtain these guys throughout the draft, and the conviction they may or may not have for certain players. So that'll be interesting. I'm at the same boat. If you take Gray Zabel at 18 and there's other players that are there that are graded higher and on the defensive side, I think you got to take the defensive guy at that point and give Mike Macdonald add to his strength. Not saying you completely, obviously, don't wait until round 4 to go after your O-lineman, but I think there's more credence that Seattle would move up from pick 50 or pick 52 higher in the second round to try and secure one of those linemen, like maybe a Tate Ratledge or someone of that kind of manner, and see what happens. But there has to be, in this draft, one of the big things, that there has to be an emphasis on the trenches.
Absolutely. And I think one of the benefits is, we're not running an alien system that hadn't been run in the league. Like you kind of mentioned previously, you're running a scheme that I believe 13 teams run some very similar variation, if not more. What the 49ers top 30 visits of what offensive lineman they're looking at is probably very similar to what Clint Kubiak is interested in, right? Grew up with the Shanahans in that scheme. All these other offenses out there in the league right now that are running this Shanahan / Kubiak offense, you're not trying to create something new. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just trying to be the best at something that is a very tried and true system that creates a lot of wins and a lot of easy wins on the field and overall for offenses.
Totally agree. So with that being said, let's just kind of put up here what the parameters are going to be like for tonight's final mock draft. And we'll put them up again before we do it, everyone. But what we're really going for tonight on this final mock draft is we have a couple of major key points for us on this. So me and Mike kind of came up with this. These are our draft guidelines for our third mock tonight, which will be the final one we put out there to say this is what we think Seattle's going to do. So rule 1, best player available early. If that's in the trenches or whatever it is, we're taking the best player available when we get our first pick. Number 2, like I just mentioned, and Mike's mentioned as well, emphasis on the trenches. We are going to address that area. Number 3, we are going to take advantages of the strength of this draft. So whether that's interior O-line at points, D tackle, running back, we may take a running back at a point some people may not think is right, depending on how the board falls to us. And number 4, as always with Seattle, character will matter. So guys like James Pierce, who me and Mike were texting about a little bit earlier, and Mike Green may not be guys we take at that BPA spot because of character or off the field issues. So those are the guidelines we're going to be following when we do our third mock tonight. But with that being said, let's get into our first mock tonight, which there's 94 of you, almost 100 at this point. Guys,
let's go.
If you're in the chat here, if you're in YouTube or you're on Twitter, it doesn't matter. The chat's linked. If you're on our Twitter side, make sure you guys are commenting. But this is your guys' draft, the viewers' draft. So we're going to put up PFF Pro Football Focuses Network, PFN's draft simulator, and you guys are going to be the ones making the picks. So whatever the majority is, that is what the pick is going to be. So Twitter, YouTube, you guys get all your comments in there. I'll bring this up right now, and we'll get going on this one. All right, so let's see if I can get this to show up better on the screen. There we go. All right, everyone. So you guys are up. So we're going to go 7 rounds. We're going to go with a fast speed. It is going to be your guys' decision on what we do. Now, what I'll say, though, is just because of the ability, trades are not going to be optional or an option, so you guys will pick what Seattle has, but you guys are in complete control of this. So we'll see how this board falls right off the bat for you guys, and you can make your decision at that point. So I'll hide these because we're not doing any trades. So Cam Ward off the board first. Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Membo, Will Johnson, Mason Graham. Will Johnson, Will Campbell, Tyler Warren, Ashton Genty went to the Saints, which I don't think is going to happen. Calvin Banks to the Bears, Tedero McMillan to the 49ers, Jalen Walker, Shamar Stewart, Mike Green, Michael Williams, Matthew Golden, and Colson Loveland are all off the board. So with that being said, chat, who do you guys want us taking here at pick 18? You guys are on the clock. We'll give you guys about a minute to get your votes into the chat here. So if you guys don't get them in, then obviously me and Michael have to take the pick just because we got to move the show along. But we want to hear from you guys. Where do you want Seattle to go? Offense or defensive line?
Man, I would be so bummed out if Williams and Loveland went in the 2 of the 3 picks right before us.
Oh, I know. As would I. All right, we've got one in there for Kenneth Grant. We got a Harmon in there. All right, so we'll go on the defensive side so far. So Kenneth Grant sitting there, and I love Kenneth Grant. I think he's one of the guys that potentially could be for Seattle. We got Campbell, Harmon or Booker, Campbell. Okay, so far we've got 2 Bookers, 2 Campbells, 2 Grants, and 2 Harmons. Man, this is not making it easy, guys. We need some conviction here. We need someone to take the reins. Okay, we got another Grant and 1 Zabel, so we were up to 3 Grants now. Couple more seconds here, guys. Otherwise, we'll be going with Kenneth Grant. All right, there we go. That's some conviction. All right, we've going Grant. Grant is the pick.
Michigan defensive tackle gets to reunite with his other Michigan man, McDonald.
Yep. So after we took Grant, guys, this is how the board went. Barron, Harmon, Shador, Emanwari, Booker. Of course, Booker ends up with Baltimore. Josh Simmons, Malachi Starks. Campbell went to the Rams, which is not what I wanted to see. Gray Zabel there to Detroit. James Pierce, Walter Nolan, Ezra Raku, Trey Amos, Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart. Well, that actually makes a lot of sense right there if he were to fall, but I got a feeling they're going to have to trade up for him. Mbuka, Landon Jackson. Now, Siobhan Ravel is someone I'm very interested in. Wyatt Millam's actually someone I've grown on quite a bit too. Donovan Jackson, there you go. Okay, guys, we're at pick 50. Now, remember, we're basically back-to-back here. So, what do we think, guys? Where are we going here? We'll go back to the all board. So, Tyleek Williams is still there. Jalen Noel. I know MWM or one of the guys in there is really going to want to go after Azrae Thomas. And remember, corners do drop off rather quickly. I'll look at the O-line, and I'll bring up O-guards. So Tate Ratledge is there. Dylan Fairchild, Jackson Slater, Bryce Calebdu, who's someone that I really like. And Embo, Ezra's there, Charles Grant. So where are we going, guys? O-line or D-line? So Amy wants to double down on the D-line and go Williams.
Wow.
I'm interested in that one. After going Kenneth Grant to come back and go D-line again, because Amy Williams we've got, and of course, Thomas, Higgins, then Thomas, Tate, Ratledge. Okay, so Tate Ratledge took over there. Okay, so everyone, I think Ratledge might be the guy here. Remember, guys, we're banking on Denver doing something that we're not expecting. So do we go Ratledge here? Is that what everyone's thinking? Higgins. All right. Okay, we're going to go Big Tate. We'll go Tate Ratledge here, guys, because that seems to be the consensus. So we'll take Tate Ratledge. Broncos went running back. All right, so where are we going now? Are we going with Jay Higgins here? I would go with Jaden Higgins potentially as a receiver. He's sitting right there. So is Kyle Williams, who's someone that I've grown to really like. Kirk Stemmer says Jared Wilson.
You said trenches, reunite him with his Georgia buddy.
Mm-hmm. But I will say this.
Yeah.
If we go trenches back to back here, we're not picking again until 82. So there may be a good chance a lot of these receivers are off the board.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 Higgins, 5 okay, that's already accounted for. I feel like we're going to end up going Jaden Higgins here, guys. Is that the consensus? I'll give it another minute here, see what more pops into the chat. I'm kind of with you there, MWM. Like, I like Jaden Higgins a lot, but I'm also terrified because the corner class drops significantly right now. It should drop off. Let's see. Let's just humor MWM and look at the cornerbacks. So Thomas, Benjamin, yeah. Because right when you get to about Darian Porter, that's a pretty significant cliff, in my opinion, down to the Zy Alexanders, Denzel Burks. You know, I know Kobe Bryant's there. Quincy Riley's someone else that I'm interested in, but it's a pretty steep fall off at that point. So Kirk makes a good point. He goes, we need a solid center for this scheme.
We've heard a lot about
the okay, yeah. Fan 76 says Higgins is the consensus, and I agree. It's been Higgins the majority, so we'll take Jaden Higgins here and see how the board falls to us.
I feel like there's been enough talk about Sundell this offseason that makes me feel like they legitimately believe in him.
And the term John Schneider used for Sundell, which I found very interesting, and they haven't brought up Olu a lot actually, is he's tough, reliable, and smart, which they're not going to throw around lightly. So we took Jaden Higgins. That's going to break MWM's heart. There goes Thomas off the board. And now we've seen a bit of a kind of run a little bit on the receiver class here. There you go. All right, guys. So we're up again here. Where are we going? Are we going receiver? Are we going corner? What do we want to reestablish here? Hello, Sean. Welcome to the mock draft extravaganza here, my friend. So, Sean, get on in here and get your vote in. Where do you want us to go? It's up to you guys. All right, so MWM comes in with Femi. I'm actually on board with that one. That's a really good edge player. Now, one of my favorite edge players, and I wonder if he's still there, is right at the top of that list, which is Ashton. I can't even say his last name. He's one of my favorite guys because I would say Gilloty. I really like him. I think he's actually now it looks like Femi's gone, MWM, actually, unfortunately, unless they've listed him as a linebacker, which I don't think they have. So I think we might go with Ashton here as an edge because I think he offers a lot of the similar skill set.
Man, so far the viewers, man, you guys are shaping this up to be a pretty dang good draft.
So where are we going? What am I looking at here? I've kind of lost track. Who do we got so far? Okay, so Femi, Terrence Ferguson, Arroyo, Winston Jr. Yes, I like Winston Jr. a lot. Arroyo, Kevin Winston again. Yeah, it's unfortunate. MWM, he is gone. All right, guys. So we going safety, or we going edge or tight end? That's the kind of conundrum we're looking at right now. We'll give you guys another second or two here to make your decision on what you guys want to do.
Yeah, don't be like the Minnesota Vikings and miss your pick.
Don't let the timer run out on us. Ugh.
All right, we got a consensus.
All button. All right, guys. Sorry, my apologies. There you go. So Winston's at the top. Barrett Carter, Terrence Ferguson, Shamar Turner, Arroyo. There you go. Ashton's right there. We've got Scataboo, which I know everyone's enamored with. All right, so it's down to Winston or Arroyo, guys. We're going either safety or tight end. Now, I think Kevin Winston comes in here, and if I was to go, I don't know, Mike, in your opinion, I think safety might actually be more of a need than a tight end at this particular moment.
Yeah, I think you can get a guy like Winston at safety who's probably pushing Kobe Bryant for the starting job pretty quick. Mm-hmm. And then at your next third round pick, I think one of the tight ends is still going to be there. If you got Arroyo and Ferguson, I'm not sure if Gunnar Helm is still on the board, but the odds of one of those two falling to you is pretty high in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think Winston, if he hadn't gotten hurt, is probably higher up this draft board as it is. So we'll go with Winston here, and we'll see what we get at tight end coming back around. All right, so what happened after we went there? Actually, my edge is still even sitting there if I wanted to take Ashton, but we have both players still available to us. Terrence Ferguson actually went off the board, so we do have the option of taking Arroyo here. Is everyone in a consensus? We go Arroyo now because we went with Winston earlier, or do we pivot and take an edge player? Okay, we got 1, 2. All right, we're going to Arroyo. We've got enough people to go in there. Mike, I agree. I'd love to go edge, but my edge is right there. He's right around the same area, so it's one or the other. The majority is going with Arroyo, so that's what we're doing. It's a majority draft. So we'll take Arroyo, and we'll see how this falls to us going forward here. All right, guys. So after we made our pick, Turner, Martinez, Miles Frazier, there you go, Gunnar Helm, and there goes Ashton. Ransom's at safety that I'm also interested in there, but he went to the Niners. Charles Grant. All right. So, Ty Robinson went to Carolina. Wow, I didn't realize Carolina had that many picks in the 4th round. 1, 2, 3, 4 picks right away. Wow.
Wow.
All right. Oh, and Bryce Caleb do it. Okay, guys. So where do we pivot here? Everyone wants to go with Chase Lund. I see that. Yeah, I would agree with that. All right. Anyone else comes in here? That's actually a really interesting point here by Jeffrey. I'm going to put this up on the screen, Mike. He goes, Arroyo frees up Fant to be involved in a trade for a developmental edge player.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not sure what you're going to get for Fant on the trade route, but at worst, you can cut him and take that $6 million, and now you become more of an interesting option after post June 1st for all these free agents that are going to get, or these guys that are about to get cut or something. I think I've thought a lot about loading up on tight ends. That way you can cut Fant. And that allows you to maybe go out and go get a veteran corner, not necessarily to bench Woolen, but to kind of push Woolen in a contract or kind of, I shouldn't say contract, but a make or break season for him.
I hope I've scrolled down enough for you, Kirk, to have a look there. One of the offensive tackles that's interesting to me on this is Jalen Travis. So I know Chase Lund's there, but Jalen Travis out of Iowa State's another guy that I'm quite interested in. You know, he's 6'7", basically 340.
Big boy.
Yeah.
They're growing big in Iowa.
All right. So let's see here. And I don't believe Farmer's going to be down here in the 4th round.
Unfortunately,
he's going
not.
round 2 probably.
No.
All right, guys. So do we go Chase Lund? That's what I've seen the most of in here is Lund. So I think we're going to go Chase Lund here. We're going to get a potential developmental tackle that maybe we put in play in 2026 for Abe Lucas if they don't extend him. So we'll go Chase Lund. And we'll see how the rest of this falls to us here in round 5. All right. So, what are we feeling now, guys? Are we feeling linebacker? Or are we feeling? So, this is what we picked so far. I'll put this up here because we're at round 5. We've gone Kenneth Grant, Tate Ratledge, Jaden Higgins, Kevin Winston Jr., Elijah Arroyo, and Chase Lund. So, we've gone D tackle, guard, receiver, safety, tight end, offensive tackle, potentially guard if they move him inside. What's our next pick here? Okay, I see a Jack Kaiser here for linebacker. I think this is a sweet spot for the potential linebackers. Let's go have a look who's sitting in there. So Jay Higgins is there. Cody Simon, someone that I'm actually interested in out of Ohio State.
A little bit undersized, but absolutely just a baller.
Yeah. Jack Kaiser, we know what he's capable of. There's some other guys. Aaron Smith. Really, this is where you got to take your linebacker, or else it really drops off here.
I think Kaiser's a great high floor, and Simon is definitely that high ceiling potential guy.
Yeah, that's how I kind of view them. All right, and this is where your corners look like. It's dropped off. Jalen Smith's the only one I'm really interested in at this point. I'm just looking through this. Carlin Vickers is someone that Emery Hunt brought up to me. And usually when Emery brings up somebody to me that's like that, I tend to take a look. He is right. The guy had a really good game versus Texas. He's got a lot of the skills that we would look for in a corner, but more so, he's 6'1", 205. He'll hit. It's pretty picked through, though, there, Misfit. Yeah, it's not exactly the most ideal spot to go through. So let's see. What do we got here? Find that fullback from Matt Cook. All right, let's have a look and see. Is there anybody in here? No one in the running back area. Maybe you could look at a Carl Mulling or Cale Mullings or LaQuinton Allen, maybe, and convert them over. Maybe, but I doubt it. Tight end wise. All right. So Brant Kuthi there is someone that I think you could make into that hybrid. 6'2", 236. He's a little undersized, but he can catch. He's actually quite good at blocking. He's a guy that I think you can make into that H-back type. So's Luke Lachey there from Iowa. He's another guy I look at. He's a big bruiser kind of tight end. And you got Jackson Haas too. So where are we feeling, guys? What are we looking at? We got cornerback. Bassa Simon over Kaiser, Jeff Bassa, Taylor Booker, tight end, Simon. Let's see. Gosh, we're all over the place, guys. Yes, Misfit, he is still available. Jalen Coyer's right there from Texas Tech. He is still available. I think he's someone we could still even potentially get later on. I think this is kind of, I'll be honest, I think this is where you take your linebacker, potentially. Now, look at edge and C, but the edge class, very, very picked over at this point. All right, so we've got, what do we got in here? Kaiser, Mitchell Evans, I do like Mitchell Evans. Yeah, he's an interesting tight end prospect. We're all over the place here, guys. All right, I think we're going with a tight end. I think that's what everyone wants. They want us to go with Conyers here out of Texas Tech as our hybrid fullback potential player.
All right.
This is what we're going to do. And it's been done. All right, so we made our pick. We're back up on the board again. Now I think we can still take our linebacker because they're all still there. So let's go, guys. Who's the 3? It's either Simon, Kaiser, or Bassa. Where are we going? Let's see what the majority says. We'll go linebacker. Okay, Kaiser, Simon. Kaiser. Jeez, we're going to split this, I got a feeling. And someone's just going to throw a Bassa in there really. There we go. I figured Mike Smith might do that to me. Okay, so we've got 3 Kaisers, 1 Bassa, 1 Higgins, Simon. Oh, gosh. All right, next one decides it, guys. Next response decides it. Simon, Bassa, or Kaiser. I'm actually, to be honest, I'm liking the way this. Okay, so it's Simon or Kaiser. There you go. Zach throws Simon back out there again. Okay, we'll take Bassa out of the equation. So you guys got a choice. It's either Jack Kaiser or Cody Simon. All right, that's 2 Simons, so we're going to go Simon then. All right. Let's see how this shapes up. Oh, yeah, I forgot we don't have a 6-rounder. Okay, so guys, now we're swinging for the fences here. This is round 7. We got 2 more picks. We got 223 and 234. Where are we going with this? Running back? Yeah, I think running back's a good call here. I haven't done a lot of study on Dotson there, Zach, but I'll take your word on it. Oh, I got to throw this up here because Dogzilla is in the chat for this. I wonder, what is he listed as in this? Is he listed as a D tackle?
I have no idea.
I haven't seen him in too many mock draft simulators, but he's not listed as a D tackle. Well, I know he's a nose tackle, but he's not even listed here, man. I'd love to take him for you, Dogzilla, but he's not even listed. I know he played a bit of Wildcat running back, but he ain't going to be listed in there either. Let's see if I type in his name if it comes up. Oh, there he is. Yep, he's there. Okay, my apologies. All right, is that what we want, everyone? Is that what you guys want? You want Desmond Watson here? We can take Desmond Watson if you guys want it and come back and see if we get somebody else. Okay, I will. All right, I'll click his profile from Misfit. 6'6", 464.
In depth.
Oh, he's gonna take up I think the thing will be I don't think he'll get much penetration. He'll just stop everything. So we got 2 no's in here. We got Kirk going no straight up. We've got Matt Cook going no. Watson is a free agent pickup. Brandon comes in with only needs to drop 100 pounds to play nose tackle. Kirk's being more generous here. Kirk's going only needs to lose 80 pounds to have a chance. Sack goes, plays 1 snap and is winded. These are great, guys.
It's a red shirt year. It's a red shirt year. Draft him and he'll lose a couple pounds.
Sure, we'll go with that. Let's see. Actually, MWM brings up a guy that I've been interested in, and that's Maxine Hook. So Mello Dotson's interesting. And Maxine Hook out of Toledo. Now, the only thing I'll say, MWM, is I get the idea of taking another safety, but we did take Kevin Watson earlier. We haven't taken a corner, so I might lean into Zach's thing on Mello Dotson. I believe Stackhouse is still Nazir Stackhouse is still there, guys. All right, so do we go Mello Dotson out of Kansas, or do we go with a D tackle? And here we are back up at the top of everybody. Okay, Stackhouse seems to be getting the love here, guys. So we'll go with Stackhouse. Okay, and we'll come back around to it. All right, let's see. Looks like our corner went. Yep, he did. And looks like safety-wise, nobody really interesting. So what do we do here? Jackson Haas is here. Do we take a quarterback, guys? Do you take Curtis Rourke as a 7th rounder? I see Jimmy Horn Jr. What's our QB situation? So Curtis Rourke, Brady Cook are still here. Running back wise, do we take a receiver? Jimmy Horn Jr. Yeah, Corey Brooks is an interesting one, MWM. He's someone that I've kind of just started really looking at late as potentially like a UDFA type. LaQuinton Jackson out of Arkansas is probably one of the better running backs left here. Donovan Edwards, if he had kept up his pace from what he was doing at Michigan, might have been something, but he's kind of fallen off.
I don't think Husky fans would like him in Seattle.
That's a fair point. All right, guys, last pick. We need something here. Where are we going? If not, I will, in 30 seconds, if I don't see some names, I'll make a pick. Okay, we got Jackson Haas. Curtis Rourke. All right, Mike, I'll let you be the tiebreaker because it's kind of slowed down here in the chat. Where are we going?
I mean, I personally would just take a quarterback here. Just throw one on the pile and see what you got.
Okay, so we'll do that. We'll take Curtis Rourke here and see how this all shapes up. All right, guys, that's your draft.
That's good. It's a good draft.
I actually am okay with that.
I think we're seeing the first 3 picks. We've seen it from other people that are doing what we're doing. I think you're seeing it and hearing a lot of it from the people. Like the Grant, Ratledge, Higgins thing, it feels very realistic.
I would agree so with it. Give yourselves a pat on the back, guys. Like that's probably one of the better drafts I've actually gone through and done this off season. So I think I'll say this, and this is something that's been going on a lot lately with right guard versus left guard, and Brendan Myers brings it up. He goes, just got to hope Tate or Haynes can play left guard. It's easier to move interiorly than it is to move on the tackles.
And we did see a little bit of Haynes moving around. Obviously, it was a disaster last year, but he at least has shown that he can do that. And then at the combine, we saw Ratledge move around a little bit as well.
So it's this one's interesting from MW, and I kind of agree with him. No edge and no corner is a big loss. Like I think those are 2 areas that Seattle definitely does need to address in this draft class. So yeah. But with that being said, Mike, let's do our crazy draft.
Let's do it. Good job, guys. That's a great draft. If that was literally the draft by this weekend, I'd be stoked for Seahawks coming into the season. Good job.
All right. So let's do this. We'll go back in. And
all right. So I want to trade this year's first, next year for Cam Ward. Oh, okay. All right, fine. All right. Just kidding.
Oh,
just kidding.
I put it on normal speed so we can at least trade if we're at pick 50 and try and trade back up.
Okay.
All right. So this is what we're dealing with. Okay. I'll bring up those in a second because we can do whatever we want. This is crazy central here for us. We can trade as many times as you want, Mike.
Okay.
All right. So Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter. I'll get rid of this ad because I hate that about Pro Football Network's thing. Will Campbell, Will Johnson, Tedero McMillan to the Raiders, Mason Graham, Shamar Stewart, Shadur Sanders, Calvin Banks, Jalen Walker, Genty, Membu, Tyler Warren, Barron, Golden, Starks. Colson Loveland is on the board.
If that really happens, you run the pick in. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah. So what do you want to do? I'm gonna let you GM more than I'm gonna GM on this.
Well, do you realistically think he's gonna be there? Or are we just mocking based off what the board brings to us?
The third draft is what we realistically think will be there and be available to them.
All right.
So this one's our fun, go crazy.
Hell yeah, we just got, in my opinion, the best tight end in this draft class. Sorry, Tyler Warren and all the Warren lovers. He is awesome. He's a stud. Colston Loveland is the best receiving threat tight end in this draft class. That's my opinion. I would be jumping for joy just like I did last year with Byron Murphy.
Do you want to take a look at the trade offers?
I do. Yes, we can take a look at it. Reject.
So
that's not bad.
That's not a bad trade from honestly to give us pick 61. San Francisco, screw you. We will never trade with you.
So what is it again with Washington?
So it's pick 29 and pick 61 for them, which I think is another third rounder.
Yeah. Yeah. Or the last pick of the second round.
Yeah, last pick of the second round for a next year's pick. You've got the Niners, which we're not going to consider because we don't help them. Jaguars are offering us pick 36 and pick 70 and a second next year for pick 18. That's actually not bad either because we get a second that's higher than 50. But that means we're waiting a little bit because we're not in the first round anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I would think long and hard about the pick with Washington because I can probably still get some trench help at 29, and getting 61 would be kind of nice. I just personally think that Loveland is one of the handful of blue chip players in this draft class, and I think that is more valuable than what 29 and 61 would provide for you.
Now, my question to hold you there about Loveland is you also have Michael Williams on the board,
Oh gosh, man, this is tough.
right? And that's my one thing is Loveland is based on, and this is where when I look at best player available and what John Schneider said, he goes, you also have to put need into that equation, and they do, is having, because you have AJ Barner and Noah Fant currently on the roster. And yes, I get you got Mafe and Derek Hall and Chenna and now DeMarcus Lawrence. I feel like the edge group is more of a need than the tight end room.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. And traditionally, a star edge is more valuable than a star tight end. I personally have Loveland rated higher, but if you told me we took Michael Williams at 18, I also would be in that Byron Murphy jump for joy. So I'm open to that, and this is a historically strong tight end class.
Right.
So then yeah, let's go ahead with Williams, and it helps with Mafe being a free agent at the end of the year. I do think Seattle will re-sign him. But with that uncertainty, you bring in a guy like Williams, who also is basically the gold standard of high character from everything we heard with Kirby Smart, which, might be taken out with a grain of salt, but sounds like a guy that really fits what John Schneider looks for.
So here's the one thing I'll put up here, and this is brought up, which is good. John Schneider also said that 18 you pick starters. Who do you think is going to be a starter sooner, Loveland or Williams?
If Loveland is healthy, he is arguably one of he's your third receiving threat overall. I mean, he's probably going to be the immediate starter over Barner. Michael Williams is going to be that guy that's going to be a rotational piece because of how deep your defensive line is. So, I mean, it's just hard to compare those because I like Barner, but the tight end situation in Seattle, I think, is a little bit worse than people think. And I think that our edge situation is really strong in the short term, but a lot of questions in the long term. And so if I thought Seattle could win the Super Bowl this year, if they had that type of team, then I would say take Loveland. But I think over the next 4 years, it kind of might make more sense with what Mike McDonald's wanted to do to take Williams. I think Seattle would go Williams in this situation. I don't see how McDonald would let Schneider walk out of there, even though I do think Loveland has blue chip potential.
So here's the thing. I like Mike's. The answer is Derek Harmon. And I'll put this up here for Sean. I'm team trade down. I basically don't think Loveland will be there at 18. I totally agree with you, Sean. This one is more of me and Mike's kind of fun one. Our next mock draft we're doing after this one in a couple minutes, that will be the one we will be very realistic and to the point on what is actually going to be realistic for Seattle.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do, Mike? You make final call.
Yeah, I think the combo of Williams and then getting a tight end in day 2 is going to be more valuable than Loveland and then like a Jack Sawyer. So let's go Williams.
Okay. There you go. Loveland to the Steelers. Okay.
Jim Harbaugh would be so pissed.
Do you want to trade back into the higher part of the first round? Or the second round, sorry. Oh, shoot. I screwed that up. MWN, I totally didn't meet. I just saw what you wrote.
I see.
It only gave us one round. There we go. MWN said something. I just saw it on the thing now. There we go. Now we'll see what happens. Maybe Loveland won't even be there or Williams. Maybe they'll both be there again. Who knows? Wow. So I think, oh no, wait, maybe hold on. Let me hide this. Okay, so Michael Williams and Loveland are both there again. So we get to do this drill again. Do you want to look at the new trade proposals though?
No, I'm good with Williams. I would not trade back if Loveland or Williams were there.
Okay, so we'll go Michael Williams to Misfits discussed. Ooh, but here's the problem. Look who's now sitting there. Brandon Myers, why? Why did you do this to me and Mike? Damn it. Ooh, Kirk put in an interesting trade proposal.
Man,
Now,
okay.
I would say yes to that, but the only thing is they already took a quarterback.
Yeah. In reality, I know Dan Viens on his show talked about it. If that was a real offer and John Schneider said no, then I would probably say that Seattle needs to fire Schneider immediately. And I know that's harsh, but like the value of next year's class,
but the value of it, the Giants are going to be most likely probably not a great football team even next year.
Yep.
So the value of that first round pick is huge.
And it really makes next year the year that you feel like, hey, you've developed this year and next year's your Super Bowl. Go for it, because you're going to have potentially 2 first round picks on top of all this cap space that you have, in also a loaded free agent class next year. Like, it makes all the sense in the world to do that deal.
So let's just look at the trade offers that have been given to us.
Okay.
So Chargers offer us 22 and pick 55. So another second rounder for our pick 92 and 18.
Well, I would do that if that's.
Minnesota offers a bunch of capital next year.
Yeah, because they have no picks.
24, and that's it. Those are our 2 offers. Do you want to take one of those picks, or do you want to go with Michael Williams?
So if you fall back to 22, you're back more in that O-line, maybe Jihad Campbell range.
I like this because you're adding another second round pick. Yes, you're taking away a third, but you're upgrading that massively by getting into that. And you've got a small gap in between all those picks.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. And then I would roll with the 3 second round picks, because even if maybe like a Tate Ratledge isn't there, with those 3 picks, I can knock out potentially 3 starters.
Yes.
In that range. So yeah, let's see what we get at 22. I'd take that deal from the Chargers.
Okay. So they go with Loveland. Booker.
Harbaugh gets his guy.
All right. So Michael Williams is still on the board, but we could even drop again if we wanted to and get pick 61 too.
I mean,
this is an interesting one. That gives us a third again. Or no, sorry.
Well, third. So the Commanders is still 22 for 29 and 61. So is that what it said?
It's 29-61 for 22.
Oh, well, I would do that because now I'm getting another late second.
Yeah, and this is the Buccaneers offer.
Yeah. What do you think?
This one intrigues me, the Washington one, because you're only dropping a few more spots, and we still may potentially we could still end up with Gray Zabel.
Or who I think is the best offensive lineman in this class.
Donovan Jackson. Exactly.
That's my guy. That's if
I say
if
we
I
do it
can,
and see what we get, because I don't see anyone ahead of us especially with Starks, Williams, Emin Worry, Josh Simmons even on the board. We can still address the O-line.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Let's see what happens. Again, this is our crazy fun draft. All right, so there you go. Eagles go Michael Williams. Starks off the board. Gray Zabel goes to the Ravens. Okay. Holy Chargers. You're trade happy right now. Jeez Louise. Okay, no more trades. We're picking in the first round. Okay. Now, I've got 2 guys in mind here. Kenneth Grant and Donovan Jackson.
You can't go wrong with either one. Is a Michigan coach going to take an Ohio State player over a Michigan guy? I would be surprised. But I think Donovan Jackson's the best and safest offensive lineman in this draft at the guard spot, and I think you have a legitimate case to be made that he could potentially slide over if Abe Lucas gets hurt, or you don't want to keep Abe Lucas after this year.
Now, here's the one caveat I'll throw for Grant, because I love Kenneth Grant, and that's how I'm actually hoping they take, is I think Kenneth Grant, you immediately plug him in, and he starts on the Steve front and frees up Murphy even more. And Jaron Reed now becomes rotational.
It's a good problem to have, and you got 58 and 61
Because
for this
here's
problem.
my thing. Do you look at Donovan Jackson to say a Tate Ratledge, who started in the SEC and did all that stuff, as a massive drop, where if you go from Kenneth Grant potentially to one of these other D tackles that you might go on later on and look at, are you getting the same level?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I'm probably thinking TJ Sanders or Darius Alexander, maybe Farmer. And at the end of the day, I mean, if you told me I knew Tate Ratledge was there, then yes, I would go DT. So let's take that shot. Let's go Grant again.
Okay, Kenneth Grant. All right, let's see how this goes. Can we get? Imagine if he. Oh, Jacksonville. Okay, you ruined our dreams. Thomas's career's over. He went to the Raiders. Joking. Okay. This is where. Yeah, I don't think the Colts are taking Jalen Milroe if they already have Anthony Richardson. Okay, so here's some trade proposals. We'll look at these quickly. Nope, not interested at all. Nope, neither one of these interests me. Okay, so here comes our run of second round picks.
Yep.
Okay, so offense, OG, Tate Ratledge.
Do it. Plug it in.
All right, Jacksonville's coming with an offer. No. Oh, that's interesting, actually. Buffalo's proposal is kind of interesting because then we'd actually theoretically have back-to-back picks. And we'd fill a massive gap between 82 and 137 with that 109 pick.
Yeah, I would do that.
Okay. So we take Tate Ratledge, trade offer. Let's take Buffalo's. That's right? Pick 52, pick 52. Yeah, okay. Okay, so they took Princely, Xavier. Okay, so Mason. Okay, so Buffalo, we just traded with you. We're not interested in doing any more business. Okay, so Tyleek Williams is still on the board. Carson Schwestinger, cornerback. Let's look at corner. Because I know if I don't, MWM may come through his computer screen at me. So Darian Porter and Benjamin Morrison are still there, and we have back-to-back picks right now.
I would take Porter. I'm very high on Porter. I think I mentioned this to someone that I was talking to. Darian Porter strikes me as the question: what if you had drafted Tariq Woolen under Mike McDonald and he got developed under Mike McDonald instead of Pete Carroll? And I don't mean that to be a knock on Pete. I just wonder what that would look like. And I think Darian Porter is very similar to that as Woolen, and I would like to see what that looks like. Okay, and he's an absolute star on special teams.
So the thing I'll find interesting here is we are getting a lot of take Jared Wilson.
Good thing is we got back-to-back picks, gang.
We have back-to-back, and we have pick 61.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for going Ratledge, going Porter, and then going with Ratledge's buddy. And then at 61, you can also take a center, or not a center, a wide receiver. But I kind of wonder if you can get the center at 61. What's the wide receiver situation look like? Trey
Harris, Jaden Higgins, Kyle Williams, Jack Besh, which are all guys I like. Torrey Horton's still there.
Personally, Besh is my number one in that group that's left over. I think Higgins is right behind him. I just really like Jack. I think in the Shanahan Kubiak scheme.
Now Harold Fanning Jr. is still here too, so this is where it gets interesting. I will say this: let's go with Wilson. We haven't taken him in any of the mocks I've done. Let's go with Wilson here. Okay. We have the following pick. Okay, so Cincinnati, no, we're not going to trade with you. We're certainly not trading with San Francisco. Okay, so guys, we took Jared Wilson. Everyone can be happy. I finally have taken Jared Wilson in a mock draft. All right, now let's look receiver. So our all board. See, the thing that drives me nuts is Tyleek Williams is still there.
Yeah, he's not.
He's not in real life, but in this he is. Okay, let's go receiver. Jaden Higgins, Jack Bash. Who do we go with?
We did Higgins in the last draft. Let's go Jack this time.
Okay, so we'll take Jack Besh. Okay, Jaden Higgins goes to Texans. Okay, cool. Tyleek Williams goes off the board. Okay. Kansas City Cleveland. That's actually not a bad offer, really.
Houston.
Gives us another couple thirds, really.
Yeah, it's. Wonder if he can still get a cornerback there.
Let's see what the cornerbacks look like, because I know that's an area that's going to drop. Benjamin Morrison is still there from Notre Dame, and I know he's had the hip injuries and stuff that everyone's kind of worried about. Tim or Darian Porter?
I mean, you know how I feel about Porter. I'm a big believer in him.
Now, it's interesting because there's a lot of things, and this is something I worry about with Porter, is exactly what Zach brings up.
That's fair. That's fair. I also, I know I'm in the minority here, but I'm also, again, what does he look like under Mike McDonald? And then also the value he brings on special teams. But I understand the concerns there.
I would rather go with Morrison, I think.
Okay. Let's do it.
Or let's look at our edge group. Oh, we're taking Femi.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's pretty
I
good.
think Femi's a better, I get the, again, this is where it's, how far do we go from here? Pick 61 all the way to pick 82. That's a significant drop, so we have to be really sure with what we want to do here. Yes, Dogzilla Monster Watson is still available. We'll get him later on. Let's go with Benjamin Morrison, because that corner group does drop off substantially.
Okay.
We'll see if we can pick him up here. Oh, please let Femi fall. Please let Femi fall. Ooh, we're getting close. Oh, we're getting close. He's going to get sniped right before. No, he didn't.
There you go.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Let's take him.
All right, guys. There we go. We made a strategic decision, and we ended up with Femi. All right. So now we drop again a bit. We did run, MWM. We did run. All right. What are you thinking here, Mike? Where's your thought process here?
Man, I almost feel like you've just
So
what have we not taken? Tight end?
Tight end's the only thing we haven't dealt with. We dealt with our interior D line. We've got an edge. We've got an OG and a center that have played together, that know the zone scheme well. We've got a corner that can come in and, if he's healthy, really push to be a starter. And we've got a receiver that we've all seen that is basically what people are calling a Cooper Kupp duplicate.
Yep. Yeah, let's look at the tight end market. What do we got available left?
Ooh, tight end is like Mitchell Evans is there. Brinstone, Conyers is still there. Torrey Horton's there. Deion Walker, Will Howard, who I know you love.
Yeah, I mean, if Howard is actually there, I would take a flyer on him and watch him push past Locke and Howell. I think you can wait another round to take a tight end.
Now there's linebackers here. OGs, Dylan Fairchild and Jackson Slater are both still there. So is Bryce Caleb do. So after pick 109, our next pick is 137.
Yeah, man, I want to be greedy here. Give me Will Howard.
Okay, you want Will Howard? We'll go with Will Howard. I'm very interested to see how our realistic view one will go here shortly.
I know.
Wow, Riley Leonard to the Steelers up there. I'm kind of surprised at that one. All right. Okay. Jackson Slater's there. So is Chase Lund.
Man, I know you've filled a lot of holes and you're kind of pushing Christian Haynes out potentially, but I mean, that's good value to get one of those guys there.
I agree. Jack Sawyer's still there too.
Jeez. Gosh, that's good value. That's good value.
Tight end's an interesting thing here. I kind of agree with the Jordan Phillips look here potentially. Because he's more of a run stopper, not that Kenneth Grant isn't, but he gives you something that you're missing. Same with Caldwell, but I like Slater too.
Yeah, I really like Caldwell. I mean, all three of those guys are good picks there. Gosh, man, I feel like if you almost get another defensive tackle, it's almost like what's Reed's role on this team. But you've already gone guard and center.
Do we look for an offensive tackle, like a swing tackle? And that's where these two guys play into my mind with Jalen Travis and Chase Lund.
Yeah, man, I think there's so much smoke with Lund. I think it kind of makes a lot of sense. And I wouldn't be opposed with Travis either.
I think we go with Lund.
Okay.
I know we picked him a lot, but I think he's someone that comes in and can potentially push eventually to start at some spot on that line.
Okay. Yeah.
Swear, if Caldwell is still there when we pick, we will take him. How is Caldwell still sitting on this board?
Maybe there was like a gas mask video or picture or something.
Okay. So I made that promise. I know it's funny. Here we go from Brandon Myers. Yeah, I agree. But our D-line, we interior-wise, like you got Murphy and then now we got Grant. You got one more guy in there potentially. Like, based on this, we've addressed a pretty good side of the offensive line with 3 picks.
Yeah. No, man, we're fixing the trenches.
Emphasis on the trenches. Caldwell it is. He is a Seattle Seahawk. Why do I have a feeling this is going to end up being our best draft? Everyone's going to like this one. Okay, we're up again here. Okay. Do we finally go with tight end? We don't have a tight end yet.
Yeah, I'd be interested in picking up a blocker.
Mitchell Evans?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we'll take Mitch Evans. Oh, boy. This is a good point from MWM. Something I've said on a few shows is Leo Williams is not getting any younger. Neither is Kenna.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And, you know, Leo was amazing last year, but there's a real shot last year was his best year.
Yep. Okay, so Jalen Conyers is someone I'm looking at for that H-back role. Mm-hmm. I know that we took Mitchell Evans, but you add another guy there that can play that other role, that could be interesting. All right, do we take him here and then we take...
Yeah, I'd go with him here.
Okay, so we'll take him.
And then I'd look, I know he'll be there. I like Efton Chisholm from Eastern Washington.
Who, sorry?
Wide receiver from Eastern Washington. He was, I want to say, an All-American on special teams this year.
There he is, Chisholm right there.
Yeah. I've mocked him, I think, in 2 of my 3 mocks or 2 of my 4 mocks.
Okay, well, let's look over what we got. So we've got D tackle, O guard, O center, receiver, corner, edge, quarterback, offensive tackle, D tackle again, true nose really, 2 tight ends, 1 more of an H back role for that fullback. Where do we go?
I mean, do you want to bring in any special teams like a punter or a kicker?
Do you want a running back?
Yeah, we have not touched that. Who's there?
So Quentin Allen from Syracuse is one I really do like. Running backs really picked over. What about the safety class? What's left in safeties? Ooh. We haven't taken a linebacker yet. Could always go with the UW product and Carson Bruner.
Yeah. That's a classic late round pick. If you don't take him, he's going to be on your practice squad, UDFA anyways. Let's get him.
Or I'll give you the opportunity to go with the receiver. Who do you want?
We haven't taken a linebacker. We got to throw another body in there just in case something goes wrong.
Okay. All right. This was our trade all over the place draft. All right. And I'll put it big on the screen. There's for everyone. This was our multiple trades all over the place. Because how many did we make? One,
At
two,
least
three,
4.
4? Like,
John was cooking.
yeah, this was a John figure, like, kind of got some 2012 magic back. All right, so we'll save that one. I will post these all on Twitter. But I like this. I got a feeling it's going to be really hard to beat this one. All right. You ready for the realistic one?
Let's play ball, man. Let's do this.
All right. So everyone, if you need to grab a drink, grab a drink. This one is going to be me and Mike really drafting what we think Seattle will do. Okay, I got to throw this up on the screen. I don't think I am. Unfortunately, Dogzilla, I wish. I don't even think when I was playing I was capable of pushing what Desmond Watson was able to push. But I think now if I did that, I'd probably severely injure myself. But I do appreciate the question. All right. So this is it. We'll go fast setting on this, Mike.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Here we go. Okay. So trades are offered up here. And let me just fix the screen here. There we go. I'll remove the lovely ad here in the corner. Trade offers. Okay, so Jacksonville's offering us 36, 70th, 126, and a second. I don't think that's realistic because I don't think John's going to jump all the way out of the first.
Nope.
49ers, no. Steelers, 33, 67. That's more realistic, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
Let's look at the board and see if we can't make our own trade. So, here we go. Who went off the board? Cam Warren, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Will Campbell, Tyler Warren. Wow, that was early 5. Genty, the Raiders, Mason Graham, the Jets, Will Johnson, Kelvin Banks, Membu, Brown. Wow, like actually the way this fell is very realistic, actually, to an extent. There you go. Loveland off the board. Okay, so where do we go? Matthew Golden, Derek Hammond, Malachi Starks, Michael Williams. What are we doing here, Mike? What do you think John Schneider's going to do if this was how the board were to go?
So really quick, Jahdae Barron, did he get drafted?
Yes, to the Niners.
Okay. All right. Damn, that would suck. Okay. I believe if reading the tea leaves, if there is a defensive player that is worth sticking for, that Seattle will stick. If it is not, I think they will look to do a slight trade back and pick up an offensive lineman. But I believe that if the right defensive guy's there, they're going to stick and take that guy. Kind of like last year with a Byron Murphy. Oh, well, if this guy falls to us, we're just going to do the Baltimore Ravens thing and take the guy that makes the most sense.
Right. Okay, so this is what's fallen so far. So Harmon's there, Starks is there, Williams is there, Emin Warry's there, Jihad Campbell's there, Walter Nolan is there.
I think Seahawks would be deciding right now in the war room between Michael Williams and Jihad Campbell. And I think Malachi Starks. I think Starks would be also in consideration.
Okay, so now I'll flip over to the offensive side. Your OGs that are available are Tyler Booker, Gray Zabel, Donovan Jackson, and your O tackles Simmons, Connerly, Ezra. So what do you think, John? If you had money on it right now, I have one player that you didn't mention that I think is high on their list, and that's Kenneth Grant.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I personally would have a hard time if they took Kenneth Grant over Michael Williams, but I would not be upset with a Kenneth Grant pick. So, I mean, like I said, we've talked about it in the last two mocks, and we heard it today from people doing mocks on their shows. I really do feel like there's a lot of momentum building about Grant. Just getting another dominant tackle and dominating the trenches. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so we go Kenneth Grant. Is that what you think is more likely?
Gosh, it's so hard for me to see because it's silly, because McDonald's a Georgia guy that coached at Michigan. Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, go ahead and stick with Grant.
Or do I propose a trade back with somebody?
Well, that's the thing is I feel like if you're going to take Grant, you might as well trade back 3 or 4 picks. And I still think he'd be there personally. That's what I think. Whereas I don't think Michael Williams will be there past 19.
Okay, do we trade with the Steelers?
If they're in, what can we do as a deal?
So we can go to the Steelers. We'll give up 18 for their 21, and then probably their 123.
That's their 4th. I would do that.
And it was rejected. I can force it through with throwing in a pick for next year.
Okay.
Is that the trade you want to do?
Are you good with it? Do you think that's what Seattle would rather do?
I think there's a higher chance. Like, it's weird. Like, I think Seattle really wants, like, as much as I like Kyle Williams, there has been a lack of production. And the one thing John and Mike have talked about constantly is they want guys that love ball.
Mm-hmm.
Kenneth Grant comes more across to me as someone that loves ball. Not saying that Williams doesn't, but Grant just does come across that way.
Yeah. As long as you have a plan in place, McDonald and Schneider, of how you're going to get the most value out of your defensive line with Murphy, Grant, Williams, and Reed, including your edges, then I'm fine with that. I'm good with that pick. I would prefer to collect a little bit more draft capital instead of and pulling back a little bit than taking Grant at 18, because I think you can get him at 22, 23, 24. You can get him in that range pretty comfortably.
Okay, so we move back.
Okay.
Williams went, Golden went, Harmon went.
All right, let's get our boy Grant.
Now, hold on, though.
Oh.
That's an interesting proposal. And I think if they came to John with that, he might consider it with who's left on the board. So
yeah, I think you have 2
seconds. I'm just going to go get a glass of water and we'll continue this. You in the chat can figure out what we should do here.
Yeah, no, I think like you're at such this interesting spot where I can see Grant going 22. I can see him going 32. I can see him going 35. Same with everybody else, like on the offensive side or the offensive line. There's all that stuff about the wide receivers too, and Egbuka, I believe, is still there. But I can't take a wide receiver at this point, in my opinion, unless you're getting something. Yeah, no, I understand the Williams, you can't pass rush, but has the traits. Campbell, it's that question of, what is he going to be? Is he going to be a linebacker? Or are you going to try and turn him into a Micah Parsons light? Campbell's another guy, him or Williams. I just don't see either of those guys getting past pick 19 and 20. Man. Yeah, take the offer. I think taking the offer makes a lot of sense. That is, trading back twice in the first round. That did happen in the year that we ended up with LJ Collier. So that's, not a bad thing, right? He worked out. Right. I understand that Grant's a D1 starter. I'm just trying to figure out how you're going to get good value out of that, all those guys in there. But again, watch that Super Bowl and you kind of see it's not about starting. It's, playing them at the right time and getting a pass rush and stopping the run, which I think all Seahawks fans are ready to see Seattle finally stop the run. But yeah, I mean, in reality, like you made that trade with the Steelers, and if Houston is going to offer you this right out of the gate, because there's been a lot of reports that Houston's very interested in trading up for an offensive lineman. There are also those reports they're very interested in trading up to get a wide receiver for CJ Stroud. Either one, CJ Stroud desperately needs. Yeah, Grant's 21. He's here long term. No, for sure. I think you take Grant with Murphy. You're kind of like what Minnesota had there with the Williams brothers. You got something that's pretty stable for the next decade almost. Big Cat was amazing, but the odds of him still being on this roster in 3 or 4 seasons is not super high. Not that I'm hoping for it, but you win championships in the trenches. So I either want someone that's going to help me disrupt the quarterback in the running game, or I want a guy that's going to allow Sam Darnold to play like he did last year for the first 16 games of the season. So, and again, there's just a lot of good offensive linemen. I'm higher on the offensive line prospects than I am on the defensive line prospects, which I know might be a little different than some other people, but when Bryce comes back, I think we'll take that trade, and then we will see if Grant is still there, and then we can be aggressive in the second round or on day 2 with offensive line help. Thank you, Mike. Well, I mean, I think Grant's pretty special. I think the question is how much of Grant being special / being helped by Mason Graham and vice versa. I think that's definitely the part, but I think Graham had a lot more of the production stats and a couple of the wow moments on tape, but I think over the course of the season, I think Grant personally was actually a little bit more of a steady floor, but obviously if I had the choice, I think I would take Mason Graham as well, but obviously he's not here at this point. He's going to be going top 10, even though we have been hearing some stuff about him potentially sliding. Back-to-back defense tackles. No, on the Will Howard thing, I actually don't. I think Will Howard is going to go in the top 55 picks. That's my hot take. I think he has done everything right other than about, a couple bad throws at the combine. I think he's nailed the interviews from what we've heard. He nailed the John Gruden interview. I think he has the tape in the 4 most biggest games of the year. I think Howard, if you want him, you have to take him at 50 or 52. That's my honest opinion. And that's kind of where I'm at on Will Howard. And I just don't know if that fits this year.
All right, guys. Sorry about that. I had to grab a glass of water there. I was getting really parched in the old talking vocal cords area. So what have we decided on, Mike? What do you think we're doing here in Seattle?
Yeah, I mean, there was some talk of, John doesn't trade twice in the first round, which Doesn't happen often, but it did happen the year that he took LJ Collier. So I kind of said that's a good reason to do the trade again. But I do think if that trade is actually there, I think it makes a lot of sense. I do think Houston is desperate to move up. I talked about moving up for an offensive lineman or a wide receiver. I think there is real desperation in Houston to make a move. So I actually do think that's a trade that is remotely realistic to an extent.
Okay, so if you had to put your money on it, you're going to bet $500. John's moved down once. Does he move down again, or does he stick here and pick?
He would stick and pick.
Okay, so we're sticking and picking.
Okay,
so do we go Booker, Gray Zabel, or Kenneth Grant?
I know the listeners might be annoyed to see us take Grant 3 times in a row, but at that pick, after you just collecting a little bit of capital, the Michigan connection, it's there.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. And I think John has made enough hints about what we saw in the Super Bowl that makes him be like, I want a little bit of that. Give me Murphy and Grant for the next decade.
Yeah, I agree. And so just so we know, we have pick 50, 52, 82, 92, 123. I say once we make that pick, I'll pause it. We'll trade. And I think we'll try and trade pick 92 and 52 to try and get back up into that early 30 range and see if we can't get a lineman.
Sounds good.
Okay. I could actually try and make that trade now, potentially. Hold on.
I want your opinion on something while you're doing this.
Okay.
Hot take kind of question. Pick 92 straight up to Cincinnati for Hendrickson. Do you do that deal? 1-year deal. There's no agreement on an extension.
No.
Okay.
Because I don't view us as a player away from a Super Bowl run.
Okay. But man, he looked damn good in the Seahawks jersey.
He 100% would, but I would not do that at that point. So let's see here. Where do we want to move up to in this 30 bracket here? I'm thinking Jacksonville, maybe.
Yeah, that makes some sense.
Okay, let's see if we can do this. Proposed trade to Jacksonville. So we'll give up 52 is what we said, and 92 for pick 36. What is that on that trade value chart? Do you know what that is?
What is it again?
Pick 92 and pick 52 for pick 36.
So pick 92 is a little bit more than 100.
Yeah.
Pick in the 30s, I believe that you're in the high 500s, if I'm correct, or the high 400s. It feels somewhat close. I don't know if I can look at it without exiting.
Let's see if I can pull it up here because I want to know the trade value to make this realistic. Apologies, everyone. We want to make sure this is as realistic as it possibly can be. Okay.
Yeah, we still got 10 minutes on the clock.
I know we're good here. Okay, so Jacksonville's pick is worth 540.
Man, it's close.
So that's 36. So Seattle's pick 52 is worth 380. And our pick in round, where is it? 132 is worth, where did I say it was 92? Is 132. Mm-hmm. So 132 and 380. Do the math there, Mike.
Yeah, it's about a 20 to 30 point plus for the Seahawks. It's a bit much when you're trading up. When you're trading up, you're typically going to have to overpay about 10%.
We'll have to switch it then. So because if we go up to pick 82, that's 180 points.
So 180 plus 380 is 560.
Yeah, so we're over top then. So we'll make that trade.
Well, yeah. So 560 to 540. I think that's the overpay you would have to do, and that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so let's do that. So we'll give pick 52 and 82 for 36. If they don't go for it, I can force it through. Yeah, so we'll force that through, though. Proposed trade. MWM wants us to take that Houston trade. Yeah, actually, you know what? Is that realistic enough, though? I don't think we said that was, didn't we?
I don't know.
I don't think John trades down twice. I just don't see it.
There's too much draft capital, in day 2 where to trade down. It's all about it would be about trading up if you're going to.
Okay, so we'll take Kenneth Grant here.
Okay.
And we've moved up to 36. Okay, so we're on the board again here at 36. Houston's offering us 58 for no. Jacksonville's offering us back our 52 to come back up with 70. I think we stick and pick here. Okay, so Gray Zabel went to Houston. I think we take Donovan Jackson here. I think if he's there at this point, Seattle's going to take him.
Yep.
Or do they take Siobhan Ravel?
Donovan Jackson.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Okay, Donovan Jackson. Now we're up again. Okay, so Seattle, I don't think is making that trade. And I don't think they're making that trade. All right, so what's that corner right now? Benjamin Morrison. Do we take a receiver instead here? An edge? Or a tight end?
What's our options at tight end?
Mason Taylor.
Well,
I think that's a no-brainer if he's there for Seattle. I think John Schneider takes him. We're talking about NFL lineage line. We're talking about work ethic. We're talking about character. We're talking about all those things.
Yep, that makes a lot. If he's there, yes.
Okay. So in this case, I think Mason Taylor could be there potentially at 50. Okay, let's go Mason Taylor. Now this is going to be the wait. Okay. So let's see here. Kenneth Grant, Donovan Jackson, Mason Taylor. Trapilo's an interesting guy. Now, do we take Ty Robinson? Fairchild's still there. Jared Wilson's gone. Receiver, Torrey Horton's there. So Savion Williams. Pat Bryant.
I like Horton a lot.
What are you thinking?
Is the DB room cleared out?
Yeah, pretty much. Kobe Bryant and Quincy Williams or Quincy Riley are there.
Okay, later on maybe.
Yeah. Let's see here. What are our trade offers? Because maybe we can move back and get – because right now our next pick is 123. Nope. Giving up a 7th and getting a 155. We do have 2 7s.
Yeah, I'm not against it.
But let's think, what would John do here? Is John sticking and picking? I think he is at 92. It's a top 100 pick.
Yeah, I think he's sticking.
So what are we sticking here and taking?
Yeah.
I think it might be a receiver at this point.
Do you think it'd be Williams?
Or it's an edge.
Yeah, who's our edge?
Well, Sadly,
So,
I think the one we wanted, Kansas City stole him.
Yeah.
Savion Jones is someone you get later on. This is where I think Ty Robinson could be the guy. I know he's not an edge, but I think we go receiver. Torrey Horton or Savion Williams. I think they're going to take a receiver.
Let's go Williams. I believe they brought him in for a 30 visit.
Okay. All right. I do not think if Will Howard will be there at 123.
Nope. Nope.
So
for sure not.
Do we go Jackson Slater here?
Yeah, I'm all for that.
We know they like him. They've talked to him a lot. Chase Lund's off the board. He went a couple picks before up here somewhere. I think he went. I thought I saw his name. Yeah, there he is, New England. I think we go Jackson Slater here.
Okay, makes sense.
I think this is what Seattle will do. If Jackson Slater's there in this realm, I think they'll take the swing on it. Or it's Quincy Riley.
I still think it's Slater.
Okay, so we'll take Slater. We can take Quincy Riley now. We get a corner.
Yeah, let's do it. With. Yeah, unless there's a linebacker that you like better.
No, because it's that same group of guys that I'm good with.
Yep.
I think they go because at this point, like if you don't take Quincy Riley, you're not taking anybody till maybe Dotson or Smith. All right, so Grant, Jackson, Mason, Taylor, Williams. Okay. The edge class has fallen right off. Like Baron Sorrell is someone I would be interested in, but
No, he had an amazing year for the Cows.
We got 2 picks here.
Yeah, I'm kind of down with that actually. Just a ready to play high floor edge rusher. It's kind of a little bit of an insurance over an 17 game season.
I also don't think
injury history we've seen.
I don't think he's 265.
Yeah, that's true.
Like I don't think that's where he is on this. In reality, I think he's going to go somewhere around here.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense there. Like I said, just some of the injury stuff in the past with our edge room. He's not really a project. He's going to come in and be serviceable right away, I think.
So Bryce Caleb do still there.
Man.
Clay Webb's still on the board. So this is what we've done already so far, what we think John could do. Remember, the one thing we said we were going to do is steer into that draft. Remember, I'll put this back up on the board, on the screen. Best player available, emphasis on trenches, take advantage of strength to draft, character always.
What pick are we at right now?
175.
I guess one concern that I have is who's my blocking tight end now that we took, not saying Mason Taylor can't.
He's actually a pretty good blocker, and I think you could still get your blocking tight end later on.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I just don't think of him as a goal line blocking tight end, but I kind of just really like Sorrell, man. one of the underrated players and leaders of arguably the second or third best team in college football last year.
Well, we already got
That-
so Mike. We already got him. We took him at 172.
Oh,
so
okay. I'm sorry. I see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Man,
Craig Woodson's an interesting one here.
from Cal. Was it
He's
Daniel
got
Jeremiah that was talking? It was
Go
Daniel
ahead.
Jeremiah that was DJ was talking about him the other day, right? I believe he tweeted about him and said he's a sneaky diamond in the rough. Yeah, I'd like to trust DJ on that one if he's actually going to be available there.
Well, you look at him, he's known for his fluid and physical play. He's going to be your guy that you can hang down in that box. He's 200 pounds. So I think that makes sense here. I think Seattle could take a safety in here somewhere to be that.
Especially one that's big and especially one like big and physical like him.
Okay, so we'll take him. Okay, now we're up in the 7th round again. Okay, I want to see. So this is where it gets interesting. Let's look again at our picks. So Slater, I think we need to take a swing tackle. I think Seattle will be taking a swing tackle in this draft.
What are our options?
There's not a lot there.
Hey, we know in a pinch Donovan Jackson can.
Yes, it's true. So we kind of did address it earlier. I'll give you that. What's our linebacker situation?
Barron.
Eek.
Mm-hmm.
That is bleak. Now we could do what you wanted and go after. Wow, he's not even there. Jackson Hawes is not on the board. MWM.
Wow.
Luke Lachey is though.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing what that looks like.
But
especially
he's not. He is not a great blocker. That's the issue, which is where I think Jalen Conyers is bigger and can actually block better, from what I know and have seen.
Yeah. No, I like Conyers' tape. Yeah, I think at this pick, it's worth taking some swings and finding your fullback. It's apparent that Clint is very interested in doing that. So
yeah, let's take him here. Okay, and let's see how this goes. Okay, so our last pick, 234. Again, I'll look. Grant, Jackson, Taylor, Williams, Slater, Sorrell, Riley, Woodson, Conyers. Do we take another receiver?
Yeah, I would go receiver just to add to the room, or I would look at a mobile quarterback that I can possibly use for short yardage situations.
All these guys I figure can be UDFAs.
Yep. The one that I'm looking at, I know Jeremiah talked about him and said he thinks he'll go in the 6th round, is Tommy Mellott from Montana State.
Yeah, I really like Brady Cook.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, he had a stellar combine and had an amazing junior year year last year.
Do we go D tackle and take Stackhouse?
Man, I wouldn't be opposed. I really wouldn't. Yeah, I think, like you said, you can get one of these quarterbacks to bring into camp on a UDFA. I think you'd have a little bit of a hard time getting Stackhouse as a UDFA. I'd be inclined to draft him and see what you got.
So the other thing is running back.
Is it better this time?
Well, you've got Woody Marks, who I really like out of USC. And I think he brings something different. I gotta put this up here because I just love MWM. Go Canadian Bryce, Taylor Algernon. Yeah, I could see him being a UDFA for sure. Rourke's even grown on me to an extent as a guy you take a swing on in the 7th. I think running back makes sense right now, though.
Yeah, if Marks is there, I think there's a lot of talent, and I think there's a lot of meat left on the bone to find out what he could potentially do as a guy that you're just kind of, hey, there's certain things that you can do. Also, we'll see what the next year, 2 years look like with the uncertainty at the running back spot.
I'm thinking it over. I'm thinking it over. This is a tough part. Because all the running backs, like Trevor Etienne, I do not think will be down here. Donovan Edwards is the interesting one because you can move him in the slot.
I have mocked Donovan Edwards to Seattle. I think that is a very good example of there's still a lot of meat left on the bone. Right. There's so much potential. There's so much talent. Obviously, something went wrong halfway through their undefeated season.
Yeah.
Yet he exploded the national championship game. And then obviously last year was an absolute disaster for the first 8 or 9 games of the year for Michigan. And a lot of that pressure of being on the video game cover. I would love to see him in the Shanahan-Kubiak scheme to see what he might be able to do.
All right, I think we go here because I think we can get a nose tackle, defensive nose tackle in UDFA.
Okay.
All right.
Bookend with Wolverines.
Okay, so that is what me and Mike think Seattle realistically could do come Thursday in this draft weekend. And looking at it from realistically, a lot of the names on that list I could see being Seahawks, roughly around their areas.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, guys. So that ends the mock draft extravaganza that we've been doing here. So if you guys got any questions or comments or things you guys think or maybe things that we missed, get them in the chat. We'll go for a couple more minutes here before we end tonight's show. And guys, make sure again, click subscribe, notification button, all that good stuff. It helps out the channel a lot. It's grown exponentially since when we started this last year. And we just want to continue to grow it so we can continue to give you guys the best possible content. Thursday, we'll be over. Myself, Michael, Ryan will be with Dan Viens on Seahawks Forever doing a joint live draft party for round 1. So you can either come on through this channel or Seahawks Forever and watch the draft and be a part of that as we go through that process and break down each pick. So, yeah, guys, if you've got any questions or anything like that, make sure you guys get them in here shortly. Anything you think Seattle could do, anything crazy you've kind of heard that maybe a potential. All right. Here's a good one. Sully. Savion, why him? I want to know your thoughts. Mike, you want to take this one first?
Yeah. I think there's just a lot that he can do. I think it was Dan that had mentioned on his show that he sees a little bit of a Golden Tate to his game, just a lot of a guy that you can move around all over the place, a guy that can do a lot of different things. I'll be honest, this is kind of the thing that I've always avoided. For those that don't know, I'm a big Oklahoma Sooners fan, and so I've watched a lot of Big 12 football over the years. And beware of drafting Big 12 wide receivers and defensive backs. It is traditionally a barren wasteland. But however I say that, I actually think this year there's a lot of really good options out of the Big 12 once my Sooners left. But Jack Besh, Higgins, Porter on the defensive backside, Kobe Bryant out of Kansas, and Savion Williams. I think Williams is that perfect number 3 type of wide receiver that can come in and give you a little bit of a wrinkle. That, I'm not saying that the other guys can't do it, but I think he brings a little bit more of what we're missing that we don't necessarily have with JSN or Cooper Kupp, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I look at Williams as I think he can come in and potentially be the MVS guy for the next few years, especially if you take him where we roughly did. I think if they take a receiver earlier on, they're looking at them as more the running mate for JSN once Cooper Kupp's done. Mm-hmm. So when I look at Savion Williams, I look at a guy that you can use in different situations. He also gives you some kick return potential is the other thing. That's the other big thing that I see. All right, what else do we have in here? Mike says, thanks. We appreciate you, Mike. You're always in here providing great comments. Really appreciate it. As well with you, Misfit. Thanks again for being here, man. Appreciate it. Mike or MWM tells me, go Bryce, go look at Hefton Chisholm highlights. He's exciting to watch. I will actually go start watching some of his stuff tomorrow and see what he did down in Eastern Washington. I saw the comment earlier that he broke a bunch of the records Cooper Kupp had put on down there. So I will definitely be going and checking him out as well. I like Sean's here. I think the Seahawks are going to take a kicker at 18. LOL. That would get John Schneider fired. If John Schneider wanted to end his tenure in Seattle, he is taking a kicker at 18. Dogzilla's in here. He goes, where the hell is the most obvious choice? Watson. Dogzilla, I swear, man, if they pick Watson or sign him, I know the first Desmond Watson jersey I'm going to see at a Seahawks game will absolutely probably be you wearing that jersey. What else we got? Sean back in here with, I'll be happy with the draft as long as we address both sides of the trenches. No, and I agree with you, Sean. I think that's going to be a huge thing for Seattle, and that's why for us, throughout this whole process, it was an emphasis of Seattle making sure they were addressing both sides of that line of scrimmage.
It also fits what the strengths of this draft is.
Yes, it does completely. All right, guys. Well, I think we're going to call tonight here. We've been here for 2 hours. We've done 3 mock drafts in a variety of different ways. We appreciate all of you guys being here throughout the entire process. We hope to see all of you guys on Thursday. Mike, what do you got going on? What's coming out before the draft, before everyone will see you again on Thursday? What do you got going on?
Yeah, the next day or so, you're going to see my final mock draft. I believe I've done 3 or 4 over at Field Goals. This will be my final one. This is what my gut tells me, what I really do think is going to happen on draft night. And then, as you talked about, I'll be hopping on with you guys for first round live draft party over on Dan's show. Really excited about that. And then I'll have an article out Friday morning of best available prospects after the first round of the draft as we get ready for what could be a really special and exciting, very Seahawks heavy day 2 of the NFL draft. It's going to be really hard for the NFL Network and ESPN to have that many commercials during Seahawk draft picks because we are loaded with at least 4 very important picks right out of the gate. So a lot of good stuff over at Field Goals. I'm just a small part of it. Our team's been absolutely kicking butt over there. And I can't wait, man. We've been talking about this draft for a long time and we're at the doorstep. We're at the goal line. Hopefully we can bring it home.
Yeah, no, man, I can't wait for this. It's literally feels like you're sitting there and it's like Christmas and you've got your presents in front of you and you can't even tear the wrapping paper off. You're just waiting and you're waiting. And I can't wait to see what Seattle does. Over here on the HawksZone Rundown, we'll have 2 shows coming out tomorrow and Wednesday. Those will be finishing off our draft fits for the Seahawks. So we're going over 3 groups in each. We'll be covering tight ends, receivers, and DBs in one of them, and that one drops tomorrow on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, we'll be running backs, linebackers, and quarterbacks, and just who we think fits Seattle right. Those will get you all teed up for this NFL draft on Thursday, which, again, guys, make sure you come back over here. I know there's going to be a whole bunch of great Seahawk content creators doing their draft parties. Make sure you stop on in with us. Come have a chill time talking about the Hawks, what the other teams in the NFL are going to be doing, see how crazy it could possibly get. It should be a good time. So with that being said, though, everyone, have a good night and go Hawks.
Go Hawks.